Welcome to Thoughtspeak, a podcast dedicated to the discussion of K.A. Applegate's 1996 book series, Animorphs. My name is Coleman.
And my name is Mitchell. And what up, everybody? It's good to be back.
Bringing in the new year in February. Late February.
Hey, whatever it takes to get some more episodes out, that's what we're all about. Oh, yeah.
Could you say that this is our arrival back onto the scene?
Absolutely. And what better book to come back from such a hiatus for? I gotta say, this has been one of the best books that we've had of late. I was looking through our past catalog and not feeling very impressed until arriving at this little gem in the rough.
I really thought that our podcast would peak at the Atlantis episode. Like, it would be our big episode where we're like, oh, this book everybody slams is actually amazing, and these subplots and metaphors are incredible, and it ended up being just a real crap book, which disappointed me.
And I still quite enjoyed it, for the most part.
Did you? Okay. Well, that's nice of you.
Significantly more than the Starfish episode, yes.
No, I thought the Starfish episode had some good ideas. Maybe it wasn't the strongest plot, and it wasn't written super well, but it had some good concepts in there. Starfish and multiple starfish.
Well, I'm just glad that Thoughtspeak is back on its feet, and we can bring you these kind of dorky discussions, and it is made entirely possible thanks to our very loyal, very dedicated Patreon subscribers, which you can always become a Patreon subscriber for us. It's patreon.com/Thoughtspeak. And those people we need to thank because they make this show possible by donating. And they are John Maz, Ben Freeman, Noah Troutman, Jennifer Baker, James Miola, Tim Maheen, Kendra. Kendra, love seeing that awkward school photo of the child holding the Animorphs book on our Patreon page. Very, very funny. Kevin Kosklowski, Great, Tony Pazak, Spencer, David C., Kelly Brown, Daniel Martinoli, Nina Labrada Gaffaro, Michael Blemick, and Sorrent Joyce. All of you make this entire podcast possible, and we couldn't thank you enough. Coleman, praise them!
Yes, very good, people. You can't. I was blown away by your segue into that segment. I was stunned. I couldn't even talk.
I had to get it out very quickly so that we could move into actually talking about other things.
Yes, but either way, we really appreciate all the support, guys. You know we're good for it when we get into those breaks that we're not on the air, and we're always coming back. We're not gonna just stop. We've got so many books left, and they're only getting better and better. So we thank you again for your support, and let's jump into this book. This book that, if you can't tell, we may or may not have thoroughly enjoyed.
Absolutely, and if you haven't gathered yet by the title of this episode, we are talking about Animorphs number 38, The Arrival. The one with what looks like Axe turning into Tobias on the front cover.
A very, I think, dead for a couple days Tobias. They've done some awkward bird morphs on the cover of these things, but just a bird standing straight up with its wings kind of arched, I think is a new low.
It's definitely a representation of a hawk-like illustration. I don't know what else to say about these things. I mean, it's one of the same stock photos of Axe that they've been using. It's like they don't even try to repose him or redraw him or anything like that. The quote, I don't know when this happened. I think this might be the book where this happened, or maybe a book ago, where the quote on the front cover actually kind of alludes to something from the plot, which is a nice change.
It's all I want from those little blurbs. I mean, it's such a good spot when they do it right. It's such a good spot to entice you into the book, and when it's not a super awkward, barely relevant catchphrase they're trying to start.
Right. Change your clothes, but can you change your mind?
I honestly think they're just time-traveled tweets from Jaden Smith, most of them.
Well, anyway, this one says, Andalites have reached Earth. Will Axe leave the Animorphs? Hey, boom, there we go. That's an attention grabber right there. Good job, team.
I'd like to move into the inside cover real quick.
Oh, let's slide right into it because it's, like I said, a pretty bland Axe transformation there.
Yeah. Oh, well, just to say one more thing about the outside, I think the color scheme is good. You don't get a lot of green Animorphs books unless there's like an alligator on the cover or something. And I think this is a nice, pleasant-looking, kind of foresty color scheme and background. It's not bad.
It's not terrible. It's just unfortunate that the Watch Animorphs on TV stamp has got to grace the cover of every book from here to the end of the series from now on.
In this particular one, I think it's actually just a censor bar for Axe's unmentionables.
That could possibly be. All right,
anyway,
inside cover.
Inside cover. So I love that they just really wanted, of all the scenes of the book. If you're familiar with a Japanese manga, you know that there's a tradition within manga that when a book becomes popular or it really catches a fan base, they give the author the chance to do color versions of an opening scene or a cold open or something really cool to show characters all cool, drawn and colored for the first time and stuff like that. So really taking from that, the Animorphs marketing team decided to show a parking lot with the awkward Axe morph and a crow, which it looks like twice the size of Axe's morph. And if you look at this parking lot, you'll see it's just a random hodgepodge of 3D rendered Ferraris and cars from 1950s Cuba, and it looks like we got a DeLorean in there.
I see that too. And I like how most of the parking lot and most of the scenery is just obscured by random shrubs and trees.
Yeah, and then you got some photorealistic trees in the background. Just really, really went out of their way for this extra printing cost of doing a nice, inside cover scheme.
Bonus points because I do believe it is a scene from the book, like from the story.
Well, the community center? You think they're outside the community center here?
No, I think they're outside the McDonald's parking lot where Rachel's rampaging.
Really? It just seems like too nice of a park to have a McDonald's right there.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like they're nailing these things for realism.
I don't think this would be zoned properly within the city. But, honestly, I don't think it's the McDonald's parking lot because they've described that multiple times, and it seems like that's in a more, off-the-highway place. There's other buildings around it because they've hit on rooftops around the McDonald's. I just don't think it's sitting here in the middle of this nice park.
I just don't think the illustrators portraying it accurately is really the case.
I want every Animorphs book, instead of some of these stupid inside covers, to have a Tolkien Lord of the Rings styled map of the city and a little hand-drawn Cassie's barn up in the corner and a little mountain range that looks like smog's flying over it, and you can see where the McDonald's is and all the Yerk
the construction site where Elfangor crashed.
Oh man, Animorphs fan artists, get on that. That's what I'd like to see. I don't need another. This is what Marco would look like if he were, an Andalite half morphed into an ant.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff. I think I also, this is a weird observation, but I think this might be the smallest hole in the cover between Tobias's little bird face.
Yeah, it was a month where they had to save some money, so they used a hole punch.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that. It's seriously the smallest gap I've seen in one of these books. But yeah, that's the outside cover. I guess we generally jump into talking about the back now.
Yeah, I think it's actually my turn to read. I think you've read the last 15.
No,
it was your turn.
I knew it was your turn to read it, but I'm pretty sure I read the last one. Pretty sure.
All right, I'm jumping into it.
Good luck.
Andalites have finally arrived on Earth. The Animorphs and Axe now have allies willing to fight against the Yeerk invasion, but there are only 4 Andalites. Not nearly enough to defeat thousands of Yeerks, not enough to stop more humans from being infested. So, everyone agrees that the battle must continue, but the Andalites don't want to fight alongside humans. They feel their skills will be less than adequate. They demand that Axe choose a side. Will Axe stay with his friends, or stand with his people?
Bum, bum, bum. Yeah. And that describes part of the conflict of this book, yes. Once again, it feels like it's more of a description of the general kind of theme.
Yeah, actually, in this instance, good on them for not spoiling the much more interesting subplot of this book. Or I guess it's the main plot. Yeah, usually they usually throw some spoilers there on the back, but they held off this time.
Yeah, I gotta say, writing like accurate summaries for a lot of these stories, it can be quite fun sometimes when I'm doing it for like when we post these episodes to the website and such. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they generalize the hell out of these things usually, and this one definitely does that.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right in. What are we waiting for?
I'm waiting for you to jump right in.
Oh.
So yeah, this one actually starts out. Curiously enough, it starts at what might be considered like a climax of a different book.
Yeah, it's right into the action. I think this is just in general good writing whenever they do this. It's an interesting open right from the start, and we know these characters, we know who's being interrogated, and it's someone we haven't really seen that much of, so it gets me interested right away and wondering where this book's going to go.
Yeah, well, actually, I think the last couple of times we were surprised at the inclusion of Eric. I felt like the books had gotten a little Eric thick.
We may have just lost some street cred. It is not Eric, as you point out in your notes, who's being interrogated. It is Mr. King.
Oh, hey, good on you for noticing that, my friend. Yeah, okay. Regardless, the Yeerks have captured one of the Chi, and it is the Animorphs who are, in control of the situation in that they're all already in the room in various bug morphs kind of watching the scene unfold. And, they wait and wait until they can't wait any longer, and they've got to go battle morphs to get the Chi out.
Yeah, and this goes about as well as any confined office space Animorphs fight goes. People are losing limbs. Somebody's trailing their entrails. They're up against the wall, and I'm not sure why this fight is any harder, other than it being a trap. But they've been in traps before, and I don't know. Maybe Visor is finally just dropping his elite Hork-Bajir on these occasions where he knows he has them backed up against the corner, because they get really hurt here. And if it wasn't for the Deus Ex Machina of these new characters arriving, I don't know what they would do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was one line in particular that stood out to me from the battle here. It's Hork-Bajir began to drop like hailstones. So that gives me the image of like, the elite Hork-Bajir shock team parachuting down or para-dropping down from the ceilings on top of them. So it's a huge bloody battle, and to make matters worse, Visor 3 shows up, as he's prone to doing whatever the Andalite bandits are about.
Yeah, and so like we said, they're losing this battle. It's not going well for them, and Visor 3 hasn't even morphed yet. So there's a really good chance Animorphs will be dead after this book, and then no more series, Yeerks take over, and we lose. But just in the nick of time, some rando Andalites come jumping out of an elevator, and they soar over our heroes and into the thick of battle.
Yeah, very cinematic, and I feel like it was almost a very rushed encounter as well, as it was probably supposed to feel. Axe mentions fighting next to a female, which he thoroughly enjoys.
is immediately taken with. You see some nice little banter with Visor 3, who recognizes one of the Andalites. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely adds a different layer of mystery to this character, and his name's Arbat, by the way. He's definitely going to be the most significant of these Andalite characters that are introduced here.
Do you think, just a side tangent right away, right at the beginning of this book, do you think that this messes with Visor 3's head at all? That he sees Arbat and what he ends up being, and maybe he questions whether he was one of the Andalite bandits this whole time?
Yeah.
Like, for Visor 3, this could be this huge reveal in the series.
Exactly, I know. Arbat, it's been you this whole time, man. I was going to ask you the same thing. Do you think it helps the Animorphs or hurts their team that Visor 3 and some of the Yeerks will now assume that there are +4 more Andalite bandits?
Well, I think it's helpful because it's information that's not true. And anytime the enemy thinks something's true that's not, you have the advantage. And B, with how close Visor 3 is to one of these Andalites, it might help the Animorphs in thinking that if Visor 3 still thinks that he's part of their team, maybe he tries to think like him and like try to be one step ahead of him when really he's still dealing with the same Animorphs we've always known.
Yeah, it's possible. On the negative side, if they're planning for more enemies, they'll have more weapons and guards, theoretically.
Honestly, it seems like this is something that Visor 3 could take to the Council of 13 and be like, look, I've been struggling against 5 Andalite bandits, and now they're up to 9. We need to move this invasion up.
Yeah. That could have been a great tipping point for the start of the end game of the series, but
yeah,
they do other things instead.
Well, anyway, so these Andalites arrive, and they really help them out and get them out in the nick of time.
Yeah, basically, like you said, Deus Ex Machina all the way. They managed to make it out, and the Andalites sneak off as they do, and the Animorphs kind of reconvene at Cassie's barn as they always do.
Yeah, but this is a very different barn scene in my mind, and I'd say at first those sneaky little Animorphs, as we'll come to later find out, they had me. I thought the team was honestly falling apart right here, and I was very taken aback by it.
During this scene or during the next one?
Oh, I thought it started off in this scene.
No, in this one, they mainly express their concerns to Axe.
Yeah.
So everybody, gathers in the barn, and right off the bat, they're super skeptical about the Andalites' intentions and whether or not they're really going to be helpful.
No. So this is, you're right. The next scene is where they explicitly start down that road, but I think this scene sets it up pretty well, because in this one they do start talking about like, okay, well, Andalites have definitely arrived back on Earth. What does this mean for our little group of merry men? That they start talking about that in this scene, and that's what leads down the falsehoods in the next scene.
I would go even a step further and saying that this initial talk was kind of like the whole team testing Axe to see where his allegiances lie. Because here's the thing. They express their concerns, about what these Andalites are here for. And Axe kind of tries to defend him. I mean, he doesn't, he doesn't outright defend them, but he basically makes excuses for them. And this is when Marco even comes out and drops Lyra, the time that they were explicitly betrayed by an Andalite.
Really throws them under the bus here.
Exactly. And when Axe, tries to bring up, but the female and we had this connection or whatever, and then everyone just suspects him of having a crush on her, because of course he would. I was trying to remember what's the name of the brother from the Hork-Bajir Chronicles that we were always joking about was in his bunk.
Oh, I don't remember.
I can't remember his name, but I was going to say R.I.P. him because Axe is surely in the same situation.
I had completely forgotten about that. I need to go back and listen to our Hork-Bajir Chronicles episode, because that was probably one of the funniest jokes we've made on this podcast.
It was a pretty good one, not gonna lie. Yeah, and I've totally lost my train of thought, but that's okay. After they're like, okay, Axe, you're clearly crushing on this chick. Rachel even goes a step further and basically casts some serious doubt on where Axe's loyalties might ultimately lie. And Jake just kind of reminds Axe not to do anything without first talking it over with them. And Axe, I almost said Alex, I think. Axe.
You did say Alex.
Axe kind of gallops off in this angry, horny rage, and that's where he leaves this scene. So this was definitely.
Hold on. I had to open the book real quick, because remembering this scene and then remembering the rest of the book, I had to think to myself, does Cassie say a single word in this entire book?
Oh, yeah, absolutely she does.
She does. I just opened a page and I found her talking, but she is basically non-existent in this book. Like, we don't really go to her point of view at all.
No, she has a couple of good lines, mostly just tries to be, very reconciliatory, or she's the very like soft-spoken one who's going to be easier on Axe.
So not a strong character in this book.
Everyone else, like Marco and Rachel, especially in this book, are very outspoken with Axe. And Jake is just very beat down and disheartened about the whole situation, it seems.
Well, in this scene where you say that Rachel calls out his loyalties, even though Jake kind of shuts her down, he basically does the same thing by reminding him not to, mess up or fall in with them or do anything crazy.
Yeah, totally. Don't do anything without talking to us first. Is very much that message of you're not to be interloping with these
interlopers.
New arrivals, I was going to say. So, Axe runs off to, I guess, remove his shirt and do like a training montage of working out angrily as he's doing that in the forest. And then Tobias comes in, probably to play recon.
Yeah, well, also Tobias, I think he's probably well aware that Axe is upset by this whole situation, and being his shorm, aka forest buddies,
BFFs, best forest friends. Hashtag BFFs.
I really like that. I feel like that's gonna catch on within the Animorphs community.
They are
forest friends. Completely lost my train of thought. No, okay, anyway. So Tobias, I think, is obviously checking on him as well. They're very close.
Yeah, totally. and Tobias's role in this whole book is kind of interesting as well. Being like the close point to Axe. He's got a slightly different perspective from the rest of the team, just because I feel like he's got a more familial obligation to Axe to kind of stick by his side. But he still hits, the right moments when he has to, when the team is kind of deserting him later. But the cool thing about this scene is it almost harkens back to earlier in the series where Tobias and Axe are just going to screw around at the mall because Tobias found $20 and instantly, Axe is down for a Cinnabon. Of course, there's a good callback reference as well to that.
Personally, I choose to believe in my own Animorphs headcanon that Tobias runs an Oliver Twist-like pickpocketing ring of children that he directs through Thoughtspeak. That's how he attains the money.
It could be, because he also mentions that here's a line of dialogue from Tobias when he's trying to convince Axe to go to the mall. I take it that means yes, especially since I've already hidden our outer clothing on the mall roof, Tobias said. So, yeah, he's got little stashes of clothing on rooftops all around the town, for the team.
You guys want to hang out? I got some clothing hidden away.
Some money that I found.
Tobias, where are you getting all these money and clothes? Oh, yeah, I just want to hang out at the arcade, guys. Come on. Don't ask questions.
Look, don't go near any crows, is all I gotta say.
Oh, I was talking about like human children, but I guess him running a line of pickpocketing crows is pretty interesting too.
Well, he hates crows, so I imagine, he makes them do it for him.
He hates them because they don't earn him enough. Lazy crows.
That could be it.
Also, look, let me throw this out there. I know that crows were a racial significant cartoon character in the 50s. That's not what I was referencing.
What? Nobody suspected you of that. You said that.
I mean, I said that. I said lazy crows, and that's literally a line of dialogue in the Song of the South, Disney's incredibly racist movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that is not what I was talking about, and I just want to make that very clear.
Well, cool. Way to make it an educational learning experience, bro. I just want to talk about going to the mall. Let's go to the mall. Because that's what Tobias and Axe are doing in the story. We're reviewing. See, I can segue.
Anything to get away from. That's a good segue.
I can steer you right out of those situations, pal.
Ooh, we're safe. No emails or tweets about that now.
Hey, remember when we used to complain about plot conveniences in these stories? Because no sooner than they arrive at the mall, then they're treated to a scene of another human absolutely freaking out in the food court.
Well, not even a coincidence of them getting to the mall. It's a coincidence of them being like, "Hey, let's go to the food court and get a Cinnabon." That means we're nearby it, so we can hear all this happening.
Yeah, basically. Oh, there's one line of dialogue that I like here from the book. It's when he's talking about morphing human, because they morph human to go into the mall for the first time. So he's talking about just acquiring the DNA from multiple people. And he says, "Thus, when I am human, I vaguely resemble all of them, but duplicate no one. It is a moral compromise. We have all learned to make them." That was just a really interesting way of putting it, a moral compromise.
Well, no, it's good that they reference that, because they've talked before. It helps ease the gap between the books where they were like, we can't morph dolphin because it's a sin against nature, and then everybody pointing, readers and stuff pointing to Axe and his human morph. So it's nice that they're like, okay, this is something we see as absolutely necessary, which is why I have it. Although at the same time, they also use it to go to the movies and stuff. So you take it as you will, dear reader.
Sure, absolutely. So this of course turns out to be Estrid, the female Andalite with whom Axe is now smitten, going crazy with the delight of taste, as Andalite humans are wont to do whenever they get delicious beans in their mouths.
Yeah, she was just eating like Taco Bell refried beans or something. She didn't even get to the like sugar and Cinnabon.
No, it was jelly beans.
Oh yeah, you're right. Jelly beans is what she got. I thought they definitely talk about Taco Bell. I think Tobias talks about Taco Bell.
Yeah, he does. Because Axe points out that he wants a burger, I believe, or a Cinnabon.
Which if I haven't said controversial enough things on this episode, I will go one step further and say jelly beans are disgusting, and I don't know how anyone enjoys them.
Certain jelly beans, yes, but
all jelly beans.
There are some very good jelly beans.
I don't like jelly beans.
Well, buddy, you come up to Minnesota, and we're gonna get you your beans.
Oh, you got some better Minnesota beans up there?
Oh, absolutely we do. We've got a Jelly Belly store in the Mall of America.
What store don't you have in there? You have multiples of other stores just to fill the place up.
We've got everything that you've ever needed and will ever need. And that's only the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, you guys have an iceberg too?
Absolutely.
This time of year, I'd believe it. Anyway, back to the book. Bada bing. Anyway, Estrid's crazy. They grab her. They obviously know it's an Andalite because of the specific mouth sound.
I love Axe's like trying to calm her down routine. He's like, you're having a reaction to mouth pleasures.
And then he starts playing with words too.
They're all hysteric. You need to calm down. Slaps her.
But they get her away, and they get away from security saying, "Oh, she's just my sick cousin" or whatever.
Yeah, sick sister. And then the weirder thing is, while they're trying to get her out, apparently this is like some random girl that she morphed somehow, and the real girl's brother sees them hauling her out and like starts chasing them too, and you think that's going to be kind of significant or something, but it ends up being nothing. But
not only did she morph this girl is still shopping in the mall. So she didn't even like knock her out and like put her in her closet or anything. Somehow she acquired her without her noticing. I thought when they said that there was another version of her like shopping in the Gap, I thought that the Andalites had stupidly all acquired the same human.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And I was hoping that was going to be the case, and it wasn't. It was kind of disappointing. I thought that would have been the much better route.
Yeah. Well,
if they all acquired the same human, because, I mean, why would they knock out multiple humans? I don't know.
Anyway, that plot thread goes nowhere. The brother, they get away from him, and...
Really, it does. They get outside, and they all morph their various birds and fly off to where the Andalite ship is parked. And, the team kind of regroups a little bit. It's mostly just Axe and Jake kind of stealing the scene here. And it's actually a really cool scene for Jake as far as, like, seeing his diplomacy with not just any random old alien of the week, but some other Andalites, He really takes the reins here.
This Jake feels like end of the book series Jake, where he's like, should be afraid of the people he's standing up to, and there's just nothing there. He's just, I don't care who you are. I don't care what your rank is. I don't care that you're older than me. Here's what's going on. It's cool. It's Jake at his best.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Whenever he's, being serious, being diplomatic, calling the shots, which he very much does, he wants to take charge, but typical Andalites are very egotistical, very unwilling to yield to, especially humans, but anything they consider a lower species.
Now, I do take offense to Jake's plan here with two of the Animorphs being snakes near the Andalite's feet. I think that was risking their lives pretty hardcore with how fast an Andalite's tail is. I think they could have surprised the Andalites, and if the Andalites had just chosen to kill these creatures immediately, I don't think there's anything that the snakes could have really done.
There were definitely some flaws with the plan, but I thought it was actually a really well pre-calculated, premeditated plan for gaining a quick upper hand in the situation. Not to mention they probably also had, Cassie and Wolfmorph on standby as usual, she was one of the snakes. I'm sorry. They probably had Rachel on standby as usual, ready to go grizzly or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what else they could have done, because I think if you would have gone battle morphs, like coming out of the woods or like a pack of wolves or something, that's something that an Andalite could feel like they could maybe fight head on.
And realistically, I don't think either the Animorphs or these Andalites, maybe a little less so with the Andalites, but especially the Animorphs, I don't think they were prepared or thought fighting was necessary. They just needed to show that they were capable of, thinking like that.
It would have been cool if they did something with the Chi. If they had made them put a hologram around the Andalites that made it look like they were just in like a blinding white space, so they like lost their vision or something. And it's like, you don't know how I'm doing this, but I need you to start listening to me. Something crazy like that would have been cool.
Or just made a like hologram army of like various different animals, not even Andalites, but animals, and just say they're all people in morph. And this is my army. So there you go. Boom. Scare them.
Yeah.
Right there.
that would have been pretty cool. Or some sort of force of auxiliary Animorphs made from handicapped people. No, wait, sorry. That's later.
Yeah, coming up. And so having kind of won their little standoff with the Andalites here, I wouldn't say they win their respect necessarily, but they do stand down, and we are introduced to all 4 Andalites properly. Estrid, the female, appears to be some kind of like student, or she's they call her an heiress. They refer to her as one of the experimental female heiress that's not even supposed to be on the ship or whatever. That's how she's introduced. Arbat is like the intelligence officer and planner, and that very much shows that he's a sneaky bastard. And there's more to his character.
Level. He's incredibly high level Andalite intelligence, like as high as the War Council, if not directing the War Council, which is pretty up there.
Yep, and then the commander, Gonrod, of the situation, who is supposedly a great pilot, and I think that's all he was there for, is to be a pilot.
Yeah.
Calling him commander just never felt right. Even when I was reading the story, I was like, what is the significance of these characters? And then there's Aloth, who I'll go ahead and say right now is the assassin on the team, even though that's talked about in a little bit.
Spoilers.
But their commander of the situation, Gonrod, refuses to work with Jake, really, and doesn't leave them much of a choice in the matter. The Animorphs definitely outsmarted him with the old sneaky snakes plan, but that causes the Andalites to actually spill the beans. Haha, call back to earlier. and do some splaining. And then they give out a little bit of somewhat valuable plot information. We get to know a little bit more about what's going on with the war. Turns out it's more of what we kind of expected. The Yeerks are starting battles all over the galaxy. It's like a full-on Star Wars situation now. And the Andalite team that was, I guess, headed for Earth at one point got diverted to the old Rackham Garou.
Which, I mean, I know that there's probably very much some strategic reasonings for taking these other planets or starting these wars where the Yeerks are trying to go. But we've read Visor, and we know that humans add up to probably one of the most important hosts that the Yeerks have ever found. And so you would think that Andalite intelligence would realize, and has the information now, that Earth has, 7 billion people that are strong and capable, tool use, and could become not shock troopers like the Hork-Bajir, but incredibly important hosts of Yeerks. So, to not divert some of your fleet or take the fleet there to just clean that up real quick, that seems a little far-fetched to me now that the Andalites know about Earth and the fight there. That they're not racing towards there.
No, I apparently they believe it to be low priority for some freaking reason still at this point in the series.
The only thing I can chalk it up to, I mean, obviously besides plot convenience and what they're trying to do with the book series and extend it, the only thing I can think of is that these other places are important to the Andalite pride. Like they're they're not obviously not the home planets of the Andalites, but maybe they're like places they colonized a long time ago, or places that, they have allegiances with the aliens who live there. And so they have to, the command structure of the Andalites is obviously maybe not corrupt, but it's incredibly disorganized and tons of flaws within its structure. So I don't know. It still seems crazy to me that they're not checking up on Earth or doing more than they're letting on.
Yeah, absolutely. It also feels like another way to yet again extend the series for another extra couple of books, right?
Yeah.
That much. That, and it's just another blow to our heroes' morale, really, and just another setback for them, I guess. Because not only do they reveal that, that bad slice of news, they're just kind of four people that kind of randomly got shuffled together and sent off on the suicide mission. Well, they don't say it's a suicide mission yet, but it's an assassin mission meant to kill Visser 3, and Arbat's been plotting it. That's his role in the whole thing, and Esther's just along for the ride, and there's even Axe gets his own little sparring scene that killed a couple of pages in the middle of this introduction.
Yeah, I can see something like that.
Get to beat up on the girl he dug.
Yeah, but again, moving on.
But again,
and again, other things.
Did we mention that Arbat is also Visser 3's host, Body Aileron's brother? So there's a lot of brother situations to keep track of. He's
that was my.
He's
that was what I was talking
brother.
about with a big reveal of him being Visser 3's host body's brother.
Okay, but Visser 3 also has another brother, his Yerk brother, the twin one, that may or may not have died in a previous book.
In the mansion. I almost forgot about him. Does he ever come back? Do you know if he comes back, or is that just a one and done?
Nah, I don't think so. They bring him up. They mention him before, I think. But
I want to see more of Visser 3's immediate family show up in these books.
Yeah,
I think that's
his second cousin twice removed.
Or just go down the clone route. I want to see clones of Visser 3.
Visser 333. After this whole situation, though, like so many times before and in the future, they return to Cassie's to debate the whole thing. And the team is definitely, this is like where you said, this is where the charade begins.
But I thought it was believable. I didn't think it was like when they were trying to fake out other people who've watched them in the barn, like David. I think the whole David thing, as much as I love those books, they go way over the top when berating Rachel and trying to look like they're all fighting amongst each other. Whereas this, I think it doesn't even seem like they're breaking up.
No,
they're just kind of
I agree with you. It felt very genuine.
Yeah, because it makes sense with the people that we know here, with how they've acted before. When a true Andalite squad shows up, it was always the plan to turn over to fight to them. And so it didn't seem like they were fighting necessarily in this scene. It just seemed like they were like, finally, we can give this up.
Right, because they were able to admit that the Andalites weren't coming to help them.
Yeah, so I was obviously, it obviously seemed like something because they kept mentioning the Grackles and that they were being watched and stuff. I thought that was heavy hinting to the fact that the Andalites were there. And I knew they were smart enough. I knew they were smart enough to put on a show, but they had me going. I thought this might have actually could have been revealed to be a real scene that had happened.
Well, and I think a young reader reading this for the first time would probably be naive enough to go along with it. And I mean, I swallowed it, but it didn't sit right the first time I read this through. What really sold it, though, is Rachel, actually jumping on Marco and starting to kick his ass for him giving her shit.
Which we wanted to see forever.
And I guess the real selling point is even Tobias himself says, "That's it. I can't take this anymore. I'm losing my mind. I'm out. I'm out of here. I'm out of this. I'm done, man." Tobias flapped his wings and flew from the barn, and it's like,
I think that was the most obvious of the acting skills.
Are you sure? I don't know.
That's just so out of character for Tobias.
I thought it was really out of character in the next scene where Axe returns to the barn. We'll talk about it in a little bit.
Yeah. But then, Jake goes over to Axe and he's like, man, I release you from me being your prince. So just go on with your own people. Which I think they could have done as like a little, even though it was acting, I think it could have been like a little heartfelt scene of them trying to play it up, but they just kind of do it normally.
No, actually, I thought it was quite sweet in all of its short glory. He really says what he has to, I can't hold you to your oath. The others are right. It's over. Go on, do what you have to do, and if you can, go home. Like, I like that mentality that,
Yeah.
He's just like, okay, here's what we're going to do. To really finally test you, Axe, on this, on your allegiances, I'm going to give you absolute freedom right here. Do what you want. And if by chance, you end up back with us on our side, on our team, that's cool too.
Well, no, I don't question at any point that this was a test for Axe. I think Axe was very much in on this plan, the whole book.
Really?
Yeah, especially with how it's revealed when the Animorphs come out. I think that was the point of this book, is that this isn't the Axe that turned on the humans to go with his own people. He's learned his lesson, and he said he would never turn on them again. And I think he is 100%. I think you were right in that the first barn meeting was kind of a little test for Axe, and they knew they were alone. I think from this point on, Axe is 100% still aligned with the humans and is in on this plan.
Okay, I could dig that. I don't think it's really made very clear whether or not he's definitely in on it at the end, for sure.
Yeah.
But from what point he's in on it, I'm not even sure. And I felt like, this could be the start of his test.
Not to jump ahead, but he does have a speech at the end where he said, I would never turn on you again. Or I told the humans I would never turn on them again, and I meant it. So I feel like that is strong enough to say that this entire book he was on their side.
Yeah, that could very well be. And I sure hope it's the case, because that makes it a lot cooler.
Yeah. Ugh. But so he's free of Jake's control as far as any watching birds are concerned, and
right, and absolutely, because immediately Estrid's back to be like, hey, come on over here with me.
Wanna go do some Andalite Netflix and chill?
Wanna go do some bird stuff? All right.
Bird stuff. They go back to the spaceship, and the spaceship is right by the gardens, which I thought was interesting. Just floating over a field next to the gardens.
It's a pretty good open area, I guess.
It really reminded me of Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, where they have the Klingon bird of prey parked over a park, invisible, so that things like birds are running into it and stuff. And when Kirk goes on a date at one point and he brings her back to the ship, and just a ramp opens up out of nowhere in the middle of this park and it descends down to the ground.
Cool.
It's immediately what I thought of.
Yes. Star Trek references, yes.
It's what the people come for, Mitch.
Somewhere Michael Grant is getting an erection. So right as soon as they get into the spaceship and you start talking to the other Andalites, that stuff is obviously not right with who they are, what they're doing there. None of the information makes sense. There's so much mystery surrounding everything. Arbat is suspect as hell, as well as Estrid.
Yeah, there's something going on weird.
Stuff.
There's something going on weird with, like, she's got this free spirit, which they kind of chalk up to her just being an Andalite female. But the problem is, no one's like clamping down on her or like stopping her. They're all acting incredibly weird around her, and not taking orders from her or anything, but not reprimanding her, which just seems really strange.
Yep, and at one point Aloth even mentions that, or alludes to the fact that maybe she's somebody's niece, or maybe there's some connection between her and Arbat, and of course happens to be the case. But, right off the bat, all they're interested in knowing from Axe is how they can get to Visor 3, because that is the focal point of their mission currently. And Axe, right off the bat, tells them about the sharing meetings in the Yerk Pool. That's pretty much the only way to get to Visor 3. And then Aloth and Arbat are very interested in knowing whether Arbat is capable of giving the order to kill his brother when the time comes. They even have a little debate amongst themselves about that portion.
Well, they make bets on whether he'll be able to or not. And then they go so far as to Arbat saying that even though Aloth was brought to kill Visor 3, like that's why they brought an assassin, Arbat says, you can only take the second shot. I'm going to take the first shot, just to prove that he can kill his own brother.
Yeah, well, he definitely says that later when they're actually in the mission.
No, this is where they decide that, though. Isn't it? Or did they decide on the mission?
No, it's the day of the mission.
Well, just giving the listeners a little preview of what's to come.
Hey, it's all right. The important thing is you remembered that detail.
I did.
Totally.
But the more important thing is that we're heading into a scene.
This is the first time they brought it up.
Yeah, well, you're the first time it's brought up.
Exactly.
It's being led into a scene, this next scene in the gardens with Estrid and Axe, which I think honestly makes the book.
Yeah, this is by far, I think, as far as I'm concerned, and probably many readers are concerned, this is the most memorable part or scene from this book. It's, classic boy and girl going on a date, experience the good old fashioned, human emotions of first love and
mouth pleasures.
Mouth pleasures, both of the flavor variety as well as, I don't know, oratory pleasure. I don't know.
Okay, you're going too far.
Okay, let's describe the scene.
Okay, but I think the best way to describe the scene, I think it was written incredibly well in the sense that you have these two Andalites or two aliens, doing a very normal Earth thing, going on a date to the theme park, but they have this, cold, out of body experience with it. They're talking about, she just wants to find some food, and he just wants to spend some time with her. But they're both talking about the park and what it represents to humans, and obviously Axe kind of slips in this smooth move to get her to try out kissing. But it's what does kissing even mean to Axe? He's seen it on TV, I'm sure, and things like that, and he knows basically what it means. But it's just so, I think it's just so well written that it's this outside experience looking in at these two aliens trying human things. I really like that. And we do get some important information here, which I think is crazy to readers of the book so far, that Estrid morphs. Obviously, they just didn't want to.
Yeah,
that she was walking around naked.
I was waiting silently to bring this up, but everybody remembers the kiss from this scene. And gloss over the fact that they completely rewrote the rules on morphing in one quick fell swoop here with this little trick. Can I just read this? Because this is nuts.
Yeah, okay? Go ahead.
So this is Estrid beginning to morph human. Estrid's eye stalks receded into her skull. Her legs and arms retracted. She lay on the ground, a round ball of blue and tan fur. The fur disappeared and became smooth and pink. Then, with one burst, the round ball became a human, fully clothed in what humans would consider normal clothing. I was amazed. I had never seen such an efficient morph, and the ability to morph something other than skin-tight bicycle shorts and t-shirts took almost supernatural powers of concentration. You are an estrine, I said. So, yeah, wow, that's a completely different type of morphing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all it is. I don't think there's anything crazy about it, and it's actually what I've wanted them to do this entire series is show the evolution of these powers. So if you can morph a bird with feathers and all of that, then that's like the starting point of the technology. And we've seen with Cassie, you can take that a little further. You can kind of choose how the morph goes or what comes next or make it kind of beautiful.
Yeah, like making the wings appear from your arms first.
Yeah,
you know?
So if you can take that first step towards something, there's no reason that you can't take more steps after that. And I love that this book did that because I don't think it's unrealistic or I don't think it breaks the series. I think it evolves the sci-fi and the technology of the series.
Yeah, and if anything, we are always, here at Thoughtspeak, we are always about advancing the morph lore, #morph lore, and unfortunately, that's something I think the series doesn't do enough in the end game is advance the morphing technology and how it's used and evolve the power. Like, that'd be so cool. What if, at one point they had the ability to morph multiple appendages of different animals or what have you?
Well, I do think that that's where the series, if at any point the series is ever continued by Kay Applegate, I think it would be great if the morphing technology was just out there and was a common weapon among multiple species, and that whoever the main characters are, they take it a step further and they can morph in a way that no one has ever seen before. And that's how you would differentiate them.
What if like 3 or more of the Animorphs morphed together into like a chimera?
Voltron style?
Yeah, like a multi-headed chimera beast.
I am 100% for that.
Made up of several of the kids.
Or if you morph together, you can form like mythological creatures. You can morph into a dragon. It's by combining like the wings of a bat and T-Rex.
Oh yeah, if they like got into DNA altering.
Yeah,
they could call them Ultramorphs.
Yeah, something like that needs to happen though. Or in the sequel series, they could just morph like non-DNA based things like cars and morph into objects.
They morph into books. They could morph into an Animorphs book.
Wow, that's the ultimate meta.
Super meta. I want that book. I want that book that is an Animorph that morphed into that book.
Where's Marco? Unfortunately, it's really sad. He's a Nothlet. But okay, what did he turn into? He's that skyscraper on 3rd Avenue.
Yeah, he said it really tickled all those people walking through him.
You could have an amazing scene where Jake is just sitting in like an office space that hasn't been rented yet in Marco the Nothlet skyscraper, and he's just crying and he's talking to his friend.
Yeah, he's talking to him the whole time.
Yeah, and then like it's really a trap from the Yeerks or the Andalites, who are the bad guys are in the sequel series, and they catch the building on fire. And as Marco burns down, the last thing he's able to do, which they didn't know he could do, is light up all the exit signs for Jake to get out before he burns down. This is emotional stuff.
And also a complete waste of everyone's time.
No, it's not.
Yeah, we've already talked about the kissing scene, and that's kind of the most important thing. Also, if any girl comes at you, or guy, maybe, and the mood is right, and says, "Let us experiment," that's an okay sign.
It's a good time at the gardens.
Unless they follow it up with "meant experiment."
Well, also if they follow it up with "kissing's okay, I like food better."
That was pleasant, but not as pleasant as chocolate. No, but pleasurable. Yes. I like that. Okay. Yeah, and then to move the plot along, I mean, they're flying around as birds, doing what birds do. And randomly down below, this is where you have Bear Rachel just terrorizing one of the McDonald's. Really, again, I feel like selling the scene,
Kind of. Even as Rachel, I don't see her just attacking one of the Yeerk pool entrances.
Yeah, but when she stormed out, she explicitly said, "I'm going to go back to doing this my way, hitting them hard, hitting them fast, like previously." Yeah. So, I mean, it really did make sense. especially given the previous book's context.
Yeah. The extra smart thing about the scene is that they had Rachel, if you're thinking about the behind the book where the other Animorphs are doing things behind the scenes, they specifically had Rachel attack the McDonald's entrance because that's the entrance they wanted the Andalites to focus on later in the book. They specifically, I would like to assume that Jake, planned out, okay, well, Axe is going to tell them this, he's going to tell them this. If we had to have them attack any of the Yerkpool entrances that gives us an advantage, which one would we have them attack? And they know the McDonald's one super well, and they know the area, they know all, all the intel they could about it. So it's a really smart thing to control how the Andalites are going to act later by having Rachel bring attention to this Yerkpool entrance. We're in this scene. I
suppose there is some strategic value in choosing it. I mean, all I know is that by the end of this book, this McDonald's ends up obliterated, which is pretty cool.
Sad. It's a big part of the book series.
It's pretty cool. I'm interested to see what replaces it coming up. But yeah, this is where, they spot something's awry with the team. They follow Cassie back to the barn because she was spying on Rachel. And, of course, leading X and Estrid along on this theatrical display. And it clearly is very theatrical here, where they return to the barn and Marco's just lounging on a bale of hay, like reading a magazine. Jake is off in a stall, just on his hands and knees, feeling a wave of negativity hitting him. He's like, "Oh, Tom's picking on me."
Yeah.
And furthermore, why would they all be hanging out at Cassie's still? They'd already given up.
Well, her and Jake are, I would say, dating at this point in the series. So.
Sure, but why would Marco be there reading a magazine on a bale of hay?
He's the third wheel of that relationship.
He's only there so that the Andalites see the team, all their members again.
Yeah.
Basically. But that's what made the scenes really stand out as being quite awkward. That and the way that Jake suddenly did this 180 character flip.
And now I remember Cassie does stand up here and she's like, "Jake, this isn't like you. You stand up to people who put you down." And Jake just rolls over and is like, "Yeah."
Yeah, basically. No, that's not what I'm about now. Now I'm about hiding away from my brother. Yeah. After refusing to do anything about that situation, Axe and Estrid basically go back to their ship for the night, and Axe is just kind of left to himself again. Just like in the Atlantis book, they give certain characters in certain situations way more freedom than I think they would normally allow.
Well, I don't think they're giving him a ton of freedom because when he tries to do this, when he tries to access the computer, it seems like they're waiting for him. Like, Aloth, is there instantly. So I don't think they were giving him free reign. I think they were keeping a little bit of a watch on him. And it wasn't just the computer triggering that made Aloth come. I think he was probably keeping tabs on him.
Possibly, yeah. I don't see why they wouldn't be monitoring him. They certainly wouldn't give him free reign to the ship. But he's got a pretty good excuse of, no, I wasn't trying to access your hidden information. I was just, looking at what you got on tap here.
Yeah, and Aloth, catching this suspicious new stranger in their ship, immediately decides to tell him about his black market organ trading.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he really goes ahead and spills the whole beans that, hey, we're not soldiers of any sort. In fact, two of us are convicts. Gonrod, he's just a straight up soldier turned coward. Who was dishonorably discharged. Like, that's the worst thing an Andalite can do, right? And here he's acting like some haughty, badass commander and starship pilot.
Yeah, it's a start down the road to understanding how messed up of a little crew this is.
Oh, sure, and you this is where you really get the idea that, yes, Arbat is clearly the one who's in charge of what's happening here. It's made much more clear.
And Estrid, and even he thinks that Estrid has some role to play in a leadership role.
Yeah, and that was very interesting as well. It goes to deepen the mystery. But this is where the actual day of the mission to assassinate Visitor 3 happens, and right off the bat, Axe kind of comes into it with Arbat changing his mind, suddenly being like, I'm the one who's going to do it, and Aloth, you can be backup. And then he gets really mad and explodes on Estrid, because she wants to, come along with her, but he tells her that she has to stay behind for the mission.
Yeah, and later we find out that this is all a carefully constructed experience, this attack.
On Arbat's behalf.
Yeah, which is why, that's why Estrid is surprised by him acting that way to her and being so strong-willed, and it's just kind of a clusterfuck that's starting to unroll.
Well, it's the classic starting out a mission with already something working against the team, some big shakeup that is obviously going to affect the team some way. And that's how they head into this. The community center is the place they plan to pick. This is because it's where the sharing operates most frequently. And, they're right off the bat almost confronted with Visitor 3. And even quicker, Arbat takes his shot and he ends up missing. And it almost seems to act like it's on purpose or very deliberately.
Yeah, and this is a meeting of high-level sharing people. So immediately, they all scream Andalite and start freaking out.
Totally. It devolves into complete chaos, and before the Andalites can really make it out of there, Aloth, who took his shot, by the way, and also missed, he becomes injured after, waves of Hork-Bajir have their way with him, as they do. While they're trying to get out, Axe makes a point that Aloth is pretty critically injured, but they can also get him out. It's easy enough to get him out. And this is where we have that, Lion King Scar moment where Arbat comes out of left field and just kills one of his own men. And you're like,
Long live the assassin.
Yeah, basically. Very clearly is suddenly the bad guy in the situation. And they get out of there. Axe voices his opinion as much so that he's really not happy with how the situation played out.
Yeah, it's a tense scene where at first Axe doesn't want to bring it up. He kind of just is was gonna either ditch them or just figure out what's going on. But they get into a fight about what happened, and that's where it comes out. The Axe is like, you just killed Aloth. What's your reasoning for that? And Arbat almost comes back with a defense that makes sense, but it's too much of a bad guy thing to do, to shoot one of your teammates in cold blood, even if you thought they were going to hold you up.
Yeah, totally. But, even with that weirdness of what went down and the whole screwing up, it was really just to prove Arbat's point and to move along to the next thing, is that now he wants to hit the Yerk pool. And that's where he's going to set his sights loose. Because Axe, tried to sway him away from the Yerk pool initially, saying it's going to be more likely that Visitor 3 would be at one of these meetings. But now that that's out, Arbat's like, we need access to the Yerk pool. And you get the feeling that, something much bigger is about to go down as well on the Andalites' end. They're obviously hiding something. And Axe manages to sneak out for a hot moment and grab some fresh air and some chi computer skills to bring back with him.
And he brings back Mr. King to the ship to help out with some crazy computer hacking. Yeah.
Holograms, the whole works. Them chi. So easily mistaken for each other, we'll say.
Yeah. But it's nice to see them actually helping out because they were helped earlier. That's specifically why he says he can do this for Axis, because you helped me out earlier. I can repay a favor.
During that Atlantis adventure that at least some readers enjoyed, I'm sure.
No, during the first part of this book.
Yeah, during the first part of the book, which was obviously a callback to the Atlantis book when they were helped there.
Okay.
Do you even chi?
I don't. I do not Pimmelite as well as I could.
That's unfortunate, dog.
Anyway,
conversation worked.
Just fell apart.
But after hacking the computers, he finds out really what he wanted to, and it's that they're all already marked deceased as far as the Andalites are concerned, and this is very clearly a suicide mission of some sort.
Yeah, it's something that only Arbat is aware of, as far as they can tell, and this leads to Axe, running around the ship and finding Estrid.
Again, conveniently enters her quarters where, she's working on some evil scientist shit and just happens to be the killer new virus that she's working on and almost drops as Axe enters.
Yeah, so this is the actual plot of the book that we don't have revealed until 3/4 of the way through the book, and it all kind of like locks into place and is well set up, and is a callback to many of the parts of the early series with this virus that could just solve all the Andalites' problems.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think I could say that this was like I didn't see this coming. This was a very unexpected turn, and like you said, a callback. It's once again the Andalites just being like, you know what? We've got a problem that's getting way out of hand, kind of like that Hork-Bajir problem, and this time we're just gonna nip it in the bud. And it's not like they explicitly mention like it's not necessarily like the Council of Andalites whatever decided to do this. This is more like Arbat kind of taking it upon himself to go do this.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take it in my review to talk about how this book fits into the main series overall and my thoughts on that. So let's not talk anymore about its callbacks and things, but I want to get into that in my review. But yeah, I this scene makes the book, and I think there's another scene coming up that makes it as well.
It's this point where you really start to dislike Estrid, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, she's just even though she's a genius, she's just crazy genius. Not just her mom was a strain and morphine wise, but she's studying, a level of mathematics and physics that aren't even understood by some of the smartest Andalites out there.
Yeah, the Planck-Tauridinic whatever equations that she.
Mitch can't even pronounce it. That's how advanced it is.
It was super difficult to write about. Yes.
But so after you see this, it all falls into place. What's going on? And yeah, Estrid is creating a new, basically Hork-Bajir virus, except for the Yeerks, and their plan is to wipe out the Yeerks, and if the humans go with them,
yeah, exactly. So that of course doesn't really sit right with Axe or the readers, and at this point in the story, Axe isn't sure what's really going on, but he's sure about one thing is that Estrid and Arbat are scheming to use this virus at the Yeerk pool. Of that, you can be sure. And Estrid even goes a little power crazy here, which is like super, I thought, over the top villain like. Where
I didn't think so. I think
she's like, we could end all war and then we could rule. I
thought it was a very Andalite. I thought it was a very immature thing to do. I thought it was a very Andalite thing to do. So I could totally see that Arbat has filled her mind with all these ideas to get her to make this virus, and part of that is this idea that they can stop all war and all that. I can totally see a young Andalite, super prideful and all hyped up on nationalism.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a really cool angle for it as well, and I wish they'd gotten to work that a little bit more, because that's a cool backstory. Because otherwise, it just seems like very, very forced, sudden villainy, and making you not like this character you were starting to like.
Yeah,
especially after such a cute, date scene. It's unfortunate. It reminds me of the one character from the Hork-Bajir Chronicles, the Andalite that became the Hork-Bajir.
Yeah. Wow, we're gonna get ripped apart by fans by forgetting her name.
Me
yeah,
too.
Her.
Anyway, it all goes to show that they're bad people. And just when you thought, Estrid was the worst, our bat shows up and like out crazies her a whole bunch by locking them all in the ship and then taking the virus and just running away with it. And this is, belly of the whale moment where all hope seems lost. Until, of course, the Animorphs pop up within the room.
Start coming out of the walls.
Revealing that, like time and time again, they're in control of the situation. They're on the scene. They've been there hiding out, waiting and watching as these things go.
And this is where Axe has a little speech where he says, he explains to Estrid that, his allegiances are to the humans and specifically Prince Jake and the fight for Earth.
Yep, absolutely. And I was going to read it, unless you wanted to beat me to it. But I've already got it open.
Go ahead.
So Estrid looked at me half amazed, half angry. It was all deception. You misled us. You lied to your own people. I shook my head. No, I have learned something, Estrid. These are my people. Anyone who believes in freedom, anyone who resists tyranny, anyone who pursues peace is my people. Andalite, Hork-Bajir, or human. And, that changed the races at the end of that quote. And I think this could be a very strong quote contender for validity and meaning, especially this day and age.
Yeah, it's got something to say to all of us. Or at least those of us who are planning on turning against our race, our humanity.
Perhaps. It goes a step further and says, things like race aren't important in the long run, and what is important is the side that actually has the just goals and will provide peace. And look at me getting all sentimental and...
Well, it goes even further than that in saying that it doesn't matter what your race is or what your species is. It's the people that are close to you and the cause that you stand up for that makes you a family. This is basically like the Fast and the Furious 9 up in here.
Yeah, kind of.
Axe has a family. He has a Shorm, and it's all humans. That's who he's close to.
Yeah, exactly. You get the feeling that he never really had any friends where he came from. All he ever talks about very briefly are his parents and brother. And, he's apparently very young and was just hanging out on his ship. Anyway, I think I had a thing I wanted to read. Oh, it's where, the team kind of regroups here. And the Animorphs decide they've got to go down into the Yerk pool, obviously. And they've described going down the steps into the Yerk pool like several times now in these books. And they always...
Aldrea. Sorry, I just remembered.
Aldrea!
Her name. Aldrea.
Princess Aldrea, thank you. And I feel like they finally managed to outdo themselves on the going down the steps to the Yerk pool scene, this time by literally having Axe slip and fall down some stairs into and on a pile of disemboweled chunks of flesh, gore, piles of quivering entrails, evidence of a recent Texan feeding. Well, they say evidence of a recent Texan feeding frenzy.
But what were they feeding on?
Dude, you gotta believe it's gotta be human as well.
Maybe. They're not going to waste hosts, though.
I don't know, man. Maybe some of them are, they make a break for it. Maybe one of them gets cut in the process or and attacks and goes crazy.
Even scarier, what if, a Taxon was alone with, a human host or something, and that's, a big no-no around Taxons, where if they think they're hidden enough, they'll take advantage of it and take you out. That's terrifying.
That could be too. Yeah, absolutely. Either way, Axe slips and rolls around in some guts and stuff, and the mental image was not a pleasant one. And while they're there, they've all got to be in human morph to kind of blend in, as is the look there. Trying to look casual by looking not casual or something. They manage to spot Arbat, who's in this like throwaway human morph. Throwaway account.
They notice him by him. He's acting way different than all the other humans. He's using his entire
looking around
head,
a lot. Yeah,
his head to turn,
shifty
which
head.
is like a very Andalite thing to do when you're in human morph for the first time.
But of course, he's going to like the most central location in the Yeerk pool, which is like the big pure with the virus. And since we're getting towards the end of the book, the action's going to move a lot quicker here, and pretty soon a big fight breaks out, and everyone goes in their battle morphs, and they're all just trying to get to Arbat before he can release the virus. It's like one of those big tense, chase scenes.
Well, I like this scene too. Is if we're already starting to not like Estrid now, but it gets to a point where when it's time to fight, she like tries to hide, and it wants to actually just hide with her, and he just immediately is like, if there was a point that I liked you, I do not like you now.
Yeah, she acts like the princess from Spaceballs, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And Axe very much leaves her behind at one point, and the chase kind of comes down to him and Arbat, and they have a little confrontation moment. Estrid actually comes back and ends up helping Axe a little bit because Arbat's about to release the virus, and then she freaking shoots his hand off.
Yeah, destroying the virus in the process, not releasing it, thankfully.
Yes, exactly. She's a sure shot. And then Gonrod comes back in like a very, I don't know what, like, what's a movie where somebody flies
Star
with
Wars.
a spaceship to save the day?
Star Wars, the original Star Wars.
Let's do a less obvious one.
No, this is a perfect Star Wars moment because it's literally Han Solo coming back in the Millennium Falcon and say, "You got the shot, kid. Take it." He bursts a hole through the top of the Yeerk pool and comes riding down the ship. It's amazing.
Yeah, but it's just too obvious and too easy at this point to keep referencing Star Wars. There's got to be another science fiction movie where a ship blasts through, some outer hole and comes in and saves the heroes.
Firefly. I'm sure it did it multiple times throughout it.
There you go.
Every sci-fi series has that scene where they think they're super in trouble, and then the giant ship comes out from the ravine and
Cowboy
opens its ramp.
Bebop. All the times it happened there.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe, I don't know.
Outlaw Star.
There you go, for sure. At one point, the ships had arms in that one. It had to have happened.
It flipped him off as it did it.
Pretty much. So they get in there with the spaceship and everybody gets out. I was really expecting the Animorphs to show up and bail Axe out of this one. But besides getting him like out of that ship there, he was very much kind of on his own, I felt like, in the Yeerk pool after they split up there.
Well, I like that this book's all about role reversals. You start out like an Estrid, and then you don't like her. You get excited about the Andalites, and they turn out to bad guys. And you don't like Gonrad throughout this entire book, or Gonrod throughout this entire book. And then here at the end, he really saves the day.
Yeah, they did a good 180 with his character, especially knowing that he's like a coward traitor who runs away at first sight.
Yeah.
Knowing that he did that. And then it's, one of the most cruel moments, I think, in Animorphs history, leaving Arbat on the pier, susceptible to taxon bites with his bleeding arm stump. And, Axe just they all leave him there to die. I mean, it's really what he deserved, but,
yeah.
And it definitely clears their tracks, as far as the Animorphs are concerned. It makes sure the Yeerks don't get another Andalite host body.
So I really wish this would have been dark, but we're talking about the Visor 3's perspective on like this storyline, how it was like a big reveal that his brother was there fighting on Earth with the Andalite bandits, and how amazing would it have been if at the end of the series, when the Yeerk is Visitor 3 is finally taken out of Aileron's body, Aileron would look around really excited and be like, "Is my brother here? Did he help you guys get onto the ship?" And they're like, "Ooh, yeah, we left him to get eaten alive by Taxxons." Sorry about that.
I somehow don't think it'd go quite like that, but yeah, that would be a pretty hilarious scene. You could write that short.
Yeah, exactly. Fanfic.
Yeah. And, that's almost all of the book. They get Estrid a Cinnabon to go, which I thought was very nice, all things considered. And she kind of gives him the opportunity to say, hey, you can come back with us. We'll return you to some other Andalites. And he outright refuses, which I thought is very cool of him. Like, I can't go back with you. I love the humans, and I love their Cinnabons too much. And I don't like Estrid anymore. As the conclusion it comes to.
I know that they don't want these ghostwritten books to really mix up the series or like mess with their formula, but I really, at the end of this book, wanted Conrad and Estrid to stay and become characters. Like maybe even not within the, Animorphs inner circle, but be like another Eric King or. Be like the Free Hork-Bajir, who's someone who comes in every once in a while and has their own little subplot or something.
That would be interesting to have them become recurring characters.
Yeah, and maybe not Gonrod, but it would be amazing if Estrid joined the Animorphs and they had 2 Andalites on there and they could continue this, because I think they did a really good setup with her character and how Axe doesn't like her anymore. So it'd be really great to have her on the team, and it'd be like this Rachel Marco dynamic where they can't stand each other, but they have to work together.
Dude, they could do an awesome love triangle: Estrid, Axe, Marco,
or Estrid, Axe, and Tobias. There you go.
Ooh, oh my God, a love square. Everybody loves Estrid.
Yeah, I just think that would have been really interesting, and I guess they couldn't because she's this genius, and that would have been really hard to write. But
yeah,
I don't know.
But okay, so the cool thing about this, the end here, we mentioned it before. They mentioned going out for burgers, and Tobias says it's got to be Burger King because I blew up the McDonald's. and that's kind of funny. Although the book ends on a very bittersweet note that I quite liked. Just the last couple sentences here. We walked along the dark streets, my friends and I, my more than friends. We laughed, so relieved to simply be alive. We joked. Cassie held my hand, and in the darkness where no one could see, I cried. Wow, Axe, laying on the low-key hurt.
Yeah, well, I mean, Axe, even a human morph, doesn't show a lot of emotion, so that's really telling of how he's feeling here at the end of this book.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Axe books in general are always a treat. Always great to get that alien perspective, but I honestly felt like in this book, he felt more human than he ever has. And I feel like, he's going to get closer to that come towards the end of the series.
I'm going to go a step further and say this is the best written Axe book we've ever had.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Until we get to some of the ones coming up.
I don't know if I've read those.
Oh, man. Well, you're going to dig them. You're going to dig them, good sir. So, going into the reviewing scoring session here, how would you like to do this? Would you like me to lead off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Start us out, and then maybe you can elaborate a little bit, because I think, obviously, we both feel very positive about this one. It's given us a lot of stuff that we've been missing from the series so far, that being some actual solid character development. Hey, this is my review, not your...
Oh, sorry, I thought we were talking. I thought this is the part of just us talking back and forth.
No,
sorry.
I'm starting my review. Is there something you want to add before I start it?
No, I was just gonna say that what you just said, that we
Okay, well, if it doesn't have anything to do with my review, I don't care. So
okay, well, go ahead, fine. You just say, okay, I'm gonna go first, and then you start your review. You don't just launch into it when we're still talking.
Well, it seemed to me like we were done.
Just go.
I've lost my train of thought. We had some excellent actual character development, by far from Axe, as well as, some subtle stuff from the rest of the team. Not too much. More background information on the overall war efforts and what the Andalites are doing. But like I said, at this point, it's starting to feel a little bit like stalling with the whole they're not coming. Unless the next book starts to shift their focus, because what this book really didn't do in the end was leave off with a conversation about what the team is actually going to do now. I guess it's assumed that they're going to continue just fighting as they have been, but now that they are more aware of the fact that the Andalites aren't coming to bail them out, how is that going to change their tactics? That could be really interesting moving forward. Not really addressed in this book, unfortunately. Besides that, like I said, just a very, very unique and original plot as far as these stories have been going recently. It was cool to see some more Andalites thrown into the mix, and although their whole team dynamic felt very off the entire book, it did wrap itself up and manage to work itself out in the end in a way that I thought was satisfactory. It's just a decent book, an overall good book. It's hard to talk, so much positive and negative about it, which I'm sure you'll do a little bit more in depth. But I'm just going to go ahead and throw a score out there. This thing gets 4 out of 5 Rollick Rivers, and I highly enjoyed it. Like I said, it's been the best book we've read in a while with these things.
That was literally the words I had highlighted in the notes to use as my scoring system.
What, Rollick River? Too bad for you.
I can talk now? I'm good?
Oh, absolutely. Your review is beginning now.
Okay. Well, I was trying not to let the refreshingness of this book not flavor my review too much. Like, I think it could be very easy to go through a few books that are less than good or even flat out bad, and then you get to a halfway decent book and you're just like, whoa, it's amazing. But I really think that there's some interesting arcs going on here. I think structurally the book is really well done with these turns of character and plot and the setup. It makes it simple enough for younger readers to follow, but also has a pretty intricate plot. With people changing sides or allegiances not known, and the reveal of who these characters are could have been just like a very out of nowhere setup. But I think they lay the groundwork early in the book to make it believable, and when you find out who these Andalites are, it's genuinely surprising and makes sense, and makes you excited to see more of their character, where they're going to go. I was honestly really upset that these characters aren't probably going to come back and they're not a part of the Earth Force now, and I liked that they survived and didn't just get wiped out at the end of the book, so I was sad to see them go. So generally I think this is a great Axe book. Like I said, I think it's the best Axe book so far, and mostly because it deals with everything his ongoing struggle of who are my people. It kind of brings that to a resolution. Him waiting for Andalites to come back. It's actually a pretty big book for the series in general, with them kind of coming to terms with the fact that Andalites are not coming back, or if they do, it's not someone we can rely on, which makes this book incredibly important to the overall mythology of the series. It had a lot more going on than I was expecting. And I think to tie into what you said in your review, I think you could have that ending scene of this book with Cassie holding his hand and everything, and you could play as the crane pulls up of them walking down the dark street. You could have "I Think We're Alone Now," the song playing over top of it, and that'd be just perfect for both Axe's storyline and the Animorphs. It's really just them. It's just them against the Yeerks.
Oh, I'd be playing Bittersweet Symphony.
No, it's too over the top. Also, my review. Shut up.
Hey, so everybody gets one.
Yeah. So the big thing I want to go to my review, though, and this was a solid 4 out of 5 for me. I was sitting there like, this is great. This is really well written. 4 out of 5. Yeah, that's a good score. But as we were talking about it, and as I thought more about it, something popped out to me that really made this book even bigger in the overall storyline. And I think that's its callbacks to the Hork-Bajir Chronicles, and how we have this really interesting overall sub-arc to the series now, with these events that keep replaying themselves, that start in the Hork-Bajir Chronicles with Aldrea and Dakami, and this love story of these two races, and this connection to the virus and these horrible genocides that have happened throughout the series and the overall mythology. And that starts with the Hork-Bajir Chronicles. And then obviously there's the book, I can't remember the exact number of it right now, but where it's almost like a sequel to the Hork-Bajir Chronicles that deals with the free Hork-Bajir.
That was the prophecy that we just read not too long ago.
Yeah, the prophecy, or that brings a lot of those themes back. And I think this could almost be a continuation of that series. You have the Hork-Bajir Chronicles, the prophecy, and I think this book that continues those themes of genocide and where its place is in war, and how could genocide lead to peace. I think it's a crazy, interesting, and very highbrow through line to have through this series. And even having, I think it's a direct callback specifically because of the Estrid love scene, or like love plot in this book. How you have these characters who care for each other during this plot of at one of them deciding on maybe the possible genocide of a species. It really hit me how much of a callback this is to Hork-Bajir Chronicles, and how much I thought that was smartly written to be so. So surprisingly to myself, that kicked it up. That kicked it up from a 4 out of 5 to a 5 out of 5 blown to shit McDonald's.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I really was planning for a strong 4 out of 5, but that really made me care for this book more than I thought I would.
I still feel the 4 out of 5, mostly because there were still a little shortcomings I felt from the overall story, things that I wish they'd have elaborated on. Obviously, I wanted this to be a story about some of the actual Andalite forces returning to Earth to scope it out, and
but that's
a different situation to arise.
That's not really a negative with the book, though. That's more your expectations of what the book could have been.
That's true. That's true. But likewise, like you had said, it'd be cool if some recurring characters came out of it. Yeah. Anything to sort of rejuvenate and refresh the series. Because again, this feels like another stalling maneuver.
Yeah, I think the only shortcomings of this book that are actual shortcomings are how it's a little obvious that the Animorphs are playing a game. They could have done that a little more highbrow, but I don't think that's a real shortcoming, because I think they did want to keep in mind that there's some younger readers, and it would just be confusing to them if they didn't make that a little more obvious. So I don't think that's an actual shortcoming, just a shortcoming as a 30-year-old reading this book.
Yeah, it had to be over the top in some points just to be painstakingly obvious.
Yeah. But yeah, I think a 4 out of 5 is completely reasonable. I don't fault you for that score.
I think that's very cool. We actually have a difference in rating opinions for once.
Yeah. So that's our review of The Arrival, which I think is something you should definitely pick up if you're just kind of picking and choosing your way through the ghostwritten books.
Oh, absolutely. This is one you'll find enjoyment with, no matter what your expectations are going into it. Now, the next book we're covering, I can honestly say, is one that I've always made a point to skip. Number 39, The Hidden, with Cassie turning into either a yak or a buffalo. I think it's a buffalo.
Oh, I've not read this one either, but I didn't avoid it on purpose. This is one I can never find in the library.
Yeah, I believe it's the Buffa-Human book, the notorious Buffa-Human storyline.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it and see if that's, again, like Atlantis, is it something that's actually dumb, or is it something that the fan base has just latched onto and made a meme out of?
I don't know. I think it might, my expectations, my hopes going into it are that it's going to do a little bit more to expand on the good old hashtag Morphlore. Hopefully. But
hopefully
we'll
it doesn't
see.
hashtag break Morphlore. Because I think from the way people talk about it, that's what it'll do.
Yeah, you might have a point there. It might kind of toss it out the window. I know that it has to deal, I think, with the anti-morph ray or something again.
Because that's a plot device we love showing up every other book.
Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. But anyway, that should be a good one.
Yeah, so tune in for that episode. It shouldn't be as long of a break. I know we say that constantly, but there should not be specific events that hold us up from recording that. And I think we're both excited to get to it. So look out for that in the near future. Watch our social media. Definitely check us out on Twitter. We have a Facebook page as well that's pretty active. We're always on r/Animorphs on Reddit, wheeling and dealing on there, talking to the fans and the community and what's going on there. We'd appreciate it if you checked out our iTunes page, maybe left us a review. We've gotten several in the last few months that have been just, really, really great to hear. And adding a review, it might not seem like much, but it really gets the word out on our podcast. We're still a very niche podcast, and I'd love to share Animorphs with more people and get it out there. So leaving us a review is a huge help. Of course, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, you can check us out on patreon.com/Thoughtspeak. You can contribute to the show and help us recover some funds from hosting the website, hosting all these podcasts, buying equipment, all the upkeep that it takes to run a podcast that we think is a little higher quality, because we want to put that out for you guys and have this last into the future. Obviously that costs a little money, so we appreciate anything you can do to help us out there. And the more we see of that, of course, that helps us want to get episodes out faster and put new content out there for you. Maybe even some bonus stuff and some things we haven't tried out in the past. So we appreciate you all. Glad to be back. Love talking about Animorphs. Can't wait to get into this this kind of like final 20 or so books that leads into the ending.
We'll be sure to get a countdown at at least 10 for sure. Maybe 15. We'll start the countdown.
Isn't 45 a great book to start counting down, because you get the first Animorph to lose his home. I think that's a really good countdown spot.
Or maybe when the back of the book blurbs change to the final countdown.
It's like the final 4 or something. That's not as fun.
Is it? I thought they did more than that. I thought it was like the last 10.
Maybe. We'll see. But anyway, I'm excited for that. There's some books even in that ending that I haven't read. I've read like the last 3, and I don't think I read any further back than that.
Absolutely. We've got good things to look forward to, and especially a couple books coming up I know I'm really excited for. So
the Olympus Chronicles coming up too.
Yeah, like way. I mean, that's our penultimate episode.
I don't care. That's a book to get excited about. I don't care if it's years away. That's still
a good 15, 20 episodes or more away. So
I can still be excited about it. Don't tell me how to gauge my excitement.
We'll see.
Anyway, great podcast. Enjoyed talking about The Arrival. Love this book. Everybody loves it. We all love you. Let's call it a night.
A plug's accomplished. Well done. We'll see you back here next time, folks. Same Thoughtspeak time, same Thoughtspeak place. I've been your host, Mitchell.
And I'm Coleman.
And we love you. We'll see you next time.